Good morning, everybody back here. Glad to see y'all.
Good to see you as well.
Yes. Uh, I'll let, when you get a chance to talk, I'll let each one of you introduce yourselves, and so you can tell your highlights and where you can and all that other stuff. So I'll let you do it because you can do it much better than I can. So I won't butcher any of your resumes. But I will start off this time, since there was an election in the state of Virginia or the Commonwealth of Virginia, that the Democrats beat back the Confederacy just a little bit of time. Even though there was a low turnout, we flipped the House of Representatives and kept the Senate. Even though there was a low turnout, as I said. But I will make one comment on there that I am really disappointed that we did not come out in the force that we should have. I look up in Richmond, what is the capital of this state, that they allowed the Sheriff Mason, an avowed white supremacist, to tell his story and deny that he is not a white supremacist, even though he was caught on camera talking about the unsolved rapes under his watch and standing up in the protest. And he says it was Second Amendment, but he was with the Proud Boys. So I just have to put that out. Why didn't the folks up there in Richmond come out in force and put him back, send him back home where he belongs? So I'll open it up to the first one for one of our first guests, Dr. Fairfax.
Thank you so much, Colonel, and it's always a pleasure to talk about family and our people. This is what Black love looks like.
Yes.
I agree with you that the state election and locality election, yes, may have been won or the Democrats prevailed, but we should absolutely be cautious because we still find a host of social policies that remain unpacked. And we don't see any change in structures and the ways in which institutions function, the ways in which our people have to engage those institutions. There's no change there. I struggle that we have a record number of Black political leaders, and they only seem to be able to talk about education, healthcare, police reform, as if that's all there is to Black folk. I mean, there are just so many other rich nuances to how we engage in community. Where's the funding for community agencies? Where's the funding for community businesses? Where's the funding for community museums? Where's the funding for grassroots outlets such as drill teams and some of the other developmental activities that our young people uh, could really benefit from? So I struggle with the short-sightedness of our own politicians who come from the community and they then decide to disengage from those of us in the academy, those of us who are at the intellectual bastions of our communities at our HBCUs. They just seem to just zone out and they don't include us who've studied our people and studied human conditions at the table. So I'm cautious about the outcome. Yes.
I'll make one follow-up on that. I believe that our Black leaders preach to downward to what the Republicans or the Confederates talk about, because they put a message out at the sixth grade level. And those talking points that you talked about, healthcare, because that's what their folks understand. And if you go into in depth and look at the underpinnings of what's wrong and how we can improve society, there's a wonder if can people understand or have the bandwidth to understand how we get to the next step. So I'll open it up to somebody else. Dr. Shepherd?
I'm in agreement with Dr. Fairfax. I'm cautious, but for me, coming from um, the public school sector piece, and I'm just very concerned about the individuals that are facing our students on a daily basis. And the reason why I say that is because there we have a lack of teachers across the board, across the state. You know, uh, teachers, they can't find them. And
Mhm.
then you have some individuals that say, I never forget a few years ago when I was a principal, one guy came in for an interview, shorts, flip flops, and told me I just wanted to help. I'm like, and you came in for an interview like this. He was a gentleman of a Caucasian man, and he thought that that was okay. So here we are now, even at the, and I know Dr. Fairfax can speak to this, in terms of bringing out teachers or developing teachers at the college level. They're coming out few and far between. It's not as many as it was in the past. In my day, that's what I was supposed to do, is to be a teacher. But now there's so many other opportunities. But and as Dr. Fairfax was talking about initially at the HBCU or the college level, in terms of putting some support there, as well as at the very preschool level. Some of our students are coming to school now without the skill set to just be able to write their names. And when you don't have teachers in place that have the background or have the knowledge as to how to handle them, it's very difficult and it's a challenge at best. So even with that, uh, in terms of the state legislators putting that to the forefront, it's not only that, we got social emotional learning and that needs to take place, and being able to, how do we de-escalate? How do our students de-escalate? The first thing or individuals, young individuals, how do they de-escalate? First thing they want to do is pull out a gun, and that's scary and that's dangerous.
Yes.
So I think that if we had some systems and some programs in place for them, so that they can better learn how to express themselves. That's one of the things. Only one, because we have so many different other things that are going on, aside from just being teachers. So there are other things that need to take place as well.
I
Dr.
think
Duncan?
that I think there's two things, maybe three things I'll speak on. One is just because people look like us, they don't think like us. So when we go out and try to vote, and we look at, they bring people in that look like us, but definitely don't have the thought process that we have,
Right.
or the ideals that we have. As far as teaching, I taught, and I can tell you that teaching was something, and my mother was a teacher. It was something that was really revealed. People love to be a teacher. Nowadays, teachers don't get the pay. You definitely don't get the respect. The education that you're taught to teach, you're in the grade school levels, high school is teach to the test.
Mm-hmm.
You have those students that have all kinds of different learning associations, the tactile kinesthetic, the ones that can see, the ones that can read it and understand it, but you've got to be able to reach out to all of them, and we don't do that. And we have to fight the parents and the curriculum that's put out there by the state. And I think that becomes a big issue that's out there, and people don't want to fight that. Teachers leave in droves. I won't even start about teachers' pay. And if we can't get them at the lower level, we definitely can't get them in the college level, because we can't get them up there.
Yeah.
Am I still low?
Mm-hmm.
Still low. Johnny, you make a good point about that, and especially teaching to the test.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said, we always have this debate on fully funding education. But nobody asks, what is that? And we'll give, one of our representatives or whoever is out there in charge will say, I'm going to raise teacher pay by some minuscule amount. But I did what I did. I'm a hero because I did that. But the pay is negligible, and then not uh, for a lot. So you can't survive on that.
Right.
And then when you add to the benefits in retirement, which takes, comes out of your pay, it's really not worth going out there unless you have a trust fund. Because most teachers I know, and I'm a byproduct of the public school system. I love public school system. Teachers are working extra jobs to take care of their families. And you see that all the time. And we shouldn't live in a society where teachers have to do that.
That's true.
And then it goes on to the debate of public versus private schools. Why do we have public money, taxpayer money, going to private schools where they are taking that money and making a profit? They don't have to take care of the disabled kid or the problem kid. They weed out who they want in private schools. So that's another debate that I like to touch in on that.
One of the things I wanted to agree with and maybe expound upon a little bit is the teaching to the test. I come from more of a psychological perspective, and we talk a lot about what learning really is. And learning is defined as any permanent change in a person's knowledge or in their behavior. So that we know that when we teach to the test, more than likely, once the test has been administered, whatever learning may have occurred to be able to pass or to get the requisite scores is no longer with the student.
That's gone.
And so what have they truly learned? And so I think when we start to have this conversation, and particularly looking at it from the position of politics and education, and will education be able to survive politics, there is so much neutrality that teachers are assumed, well, actually, they are really threatened that they have to have when it comes to politics, except when it comes to something having to do with our Black history or American history. We have to be neutral about that. But there are so many other things, especially when you think about the elections where Trump was elected. Since that time, there has been a lot of rhetoric. There has been a lot of prejudices, discrimination that have been evident in our school systems. They weren't as evident as they are now. And I think these are all some of the issues that make teaching so complicated, that make it such that teachers are leaving the profession. I'm the mother of a very youngly minted teacher who is extremely frustrated, quite enthusiastic, quite effective as a teacher, but has to deal with all of the things that we're talking about, as well as her creativity being squelched because she has to adhere to curriculum that administrators have her follow.
Can I just piggyback on that? Just the teacher piece itself. Sometimes we say, okay, teachers, you come in, you're equipped to teach, and you have the knowledge, but then you get they're in the classroom, and sometimes the level of support is not what they feel like they need, and then teachers are human as well, so we can tell them, and I used to share with them as well as my students, that once you cross that mat in the door, try to come here as a student, come as a teacher, and just leave your things, and try to come here with a positive attitude. But sometimes that's hard, and sometimes we think that teachers are perfect and they can come in and just go straight, and the enthusiasm lasts from the first bell to the last bell of the day, but they have issues going on in their lives just like everybody else. And because of that, they need that level of support. So, the buddy system and the mentoring is truly necessary to make sure that those budding teachers like your daughter, Ernestine, is going to be able to support and want to stay.
Yes.
You know, it's hard. It's not easy because sometimes the students are challenging because they're dealing with things, not having anything to eat. Somebody just died.
Hmm.
Daddy left the home. All those types of things. So when we both of us when they both combat those things together, and they coming in the classroom, everybody has issues. Everybody has their own bag of troubles, but there has to be a level of support for
Hmm.
them. Aside from
I hear what Dr. Shepherd is saying. I'm coming from a perspective that I think as a community, we are collectively really failing this generation.
yeah,
I think that to abdicate the full socialization to a school system that we do not control, we do not own, we do not operate, we don't have any decision making power whatsoever. I think it has been a mistake. And I think we're seeing, particularly post COVID,
yes,
absolutely impacted our young people are
hmm
from uh, behaviors to the ways in which you interface with people, to even how you engage learning, how you engage thinking, how
right,
you engage the discipline of rigor or lack thereof, and
right,
then how you think about uh, ways in which you're going to develop to give back to your people, regardless of your vocation. I
hmm
think we really need to be honest about this period that we
hmm
are in. I think we are in a dangerous
yeah,
period where
yeah,
we see the onslaught of poverty and different family forms
hmm
socializing our young people. So I think the issue is much more critical
yeah, it is, yeah,
than what
hmm
we're making it out to be.
yeah, it is.
But you know what? The other thing too is when we are powerless, and how do we get back on the subject of how to make corrections when you have the leadership up and down from the national down to this Confederate governor, and the only thing they can talk about as far as education is critical race theory. They say is taught in the elementary schools or whatever, or through high school. And I don't remember any. I don't know anywhere they're preaching critical race theory, or they want to ban books, and
Yeah,
or uh, they want to debate on what bathroom should somebody go into, but they don't want to discuss anything else of substance. But they want to get these hot button issues, especially
hmm
around election time,
hmm hmm
and get people fired up, get the other folks, what I call the people without bandwidth fired up. And
All that's distraction. That is
and
meant to distract
yes,
us.
yeah,
There
yes,
you go.
And we need to be honest about that.
yeah,
They could care less about critical race theory. They could care less whether or not they understand what woke is.
yeah.
All of these tactics are meant to distract us from the issues of freedom. Sonia
Hmm.
said
yeah,
said it best.
Hmm.
Whatever we do need to free us.
Hmm.
And to engage white folk with these concepts about these concepts is a distraction. Neely Fuller talked about the distractions of white supremacy. How do you continue to dominate? How do you continue to control people?
hmm
You distract them from the real issues of freedom, the real
hmm
issues of family, the real
hmm
issues of community, the real issues of power. And they're doing that. And we're going along
We're
with
falling for it. Hmm.
yeah,
hmm
we're
All
following
for
it.
it. Yeah.
So the other part about that too is that we've over the past what 6 years now, so they are now becoming emboldened
Yeah.
and very courageous in what they say,
Hmm.
and could care less as to how they say it. Um, when I was okay, so when I was in school, there was my counselor told me that really you don't, I couldn't, I shouldn't, because she was a white counselor. and never gave me those encouraging words that I need to have. So now they're back at a place that was, you know, couple of years ago, a few years ago, when I'm a couple of years ago. But they're coming to a place now that it's okay to say what I want to say, do what I want to say, and what are you going to do about it? Because the person that they think is should be able to run this country is saying and doing. And so here's the thing: you got some that are still masking themselves in all place of government and all place of power and those legislative powers or those places that people have to make decisions. They're masking themselves, and so they do things subtle. And just like Dr. Fairfax said, some of them are brazen and they don't care. But then you have some that said, okay, let me just see what she's thinking, and I'll just be able to, you know, to interact that way and still put my message out there.
See, if they can take away your past, they can take away your future. So once they go back and Thomas, you said it about the wordsmithing. It's wordsmithing. There's books out there I've read on it that just how you say CRT, everybody can follow the letter CRT. They don't need to know what the hell it means. They don't know what it means. They have no idea. I've sat in school board meetings and just sat there and said, how are you arguing this? And if I sit here and try to explain it to you myself, you wouldn't have the least bit idea. But people will pick up on that. And they're going to change our past and not show the future students, the future of our country, what happened in the past. They say they're ashamed that they shouldn't, our new children shouldn't have to be worried about that. But you tell them that because you don't want them to repeat it. That's the
why we
idea.
said, right, exactly.
You don't want them to repeat it, but they're going to repeat it. And the white man right now here in Texas, they want to take vouchers out of the public school and put it in private schools and turn around and tell you how bad the public school is doing.
Right.
You know, and it's a catch-22. And they don't even want you to read that book. So I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarro in the world right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it is. Well, you know what, Dr. Shepherd was hit on the thing. We talk about going back 6 years when the former president was in office, and he is opened the door and is allowing this segment of society to say what they want to say, like they want to do, and do what they want to do, and they want to almost return us back to the days of Jim Crow. The former president, who is trying to get back in office, has already said, I am going to get, when I get back in office, I am going to get those riggers. He just changed R and changed the whole word. It means, because he's already said, black folks don't vote for me, so I have nothing to do, but I'm going to get them for not voting for me. So all black folks in this country, beware.
Yeah.
Beware.
And I don't understand why someone's standing behind him as he's saying these things.
Yes.
And then nodding. You know, I don't understand.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because America's national identity is whiteness.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's whiteness. So white people are going to maintain their power, their privilege, and their dominance in any and every way possible. And so even the white person who may not be offended by you are going to support white nationalism and white supremacy because they've got to feel and believe that this country is a white country for them. And that means all of the social institutions inherit in this country. So this is a fight for white nationalism. It is.
But my point was I'm talking about people of color that are standing behind him.
Yes, because of whiteness. Trust me, because of whiteness. An example is Senator Tim Scott.
Tim.
He is a victim, we talked about this earlier, of menticide. He is in a psychological, traumatic position where he believes that his essence, his life force has to be attached to whiteness in order to survive. And black people who think that way, Dr. Shepherd, believe in whiteness at their own peril.
That's a good point.
I think he's a very obvious example of that. But to a certain extent, the fact that we have now, we aspire to systems that are more mainstream. I look back at the 50s and the fact that when everybody thought integration was such a great idea, Black people didn't necessarily think that was the case. You can even look at the research by Kenneth and Mamie Clark, who found that as soon as Black children compared themselves with white children, there was a level of inferiority that they experienced. And it appears that ever since that time, our aspirations have been about that whiteness that you're referring to, Dr. Fairfax. And as such, it's detrimental to our cognitive health, to our emotional health, and to our spiritual health. And so the beauty and the power of the HBCU is extremely relevant right now.
Love it.
But perhaps it needs to be something that we look at even at our public schools and enhancing them in the ways that we can.
The family structure in terms of, and I know what we talked about earlier about the school is being charged with everything, but I'm talking about the family structure in terms of support. You know, the fact that I'm going to help you get through this. I'm going to help you get through this. Those types of things coming from persons who are in charge of me in the classroom, the teachers, the instructional leaders, any adult. If you have one caring adult that's going to help a student, that may be the one that will propel that student to move forward and move out. But if you don't have anybody, it is hard. You know, so when somebody condemns you or somebody puts you down, you think maybe they're telling the truth, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, that's what they're getting in their heads. Some of the students are, but I think that for the family support atmosphere should be in the schools, and it's not, because people are just struggling, just trying to make it.
No, it's not going to be that though, because the school is designed to tease out our children. The schools are designed to traumatize our children. The schools are designed to program our children for certain industry and certain occupations. I think we really need to think very differently about public education today. Again, it has a function very much like mass incarceration. And so Monique Edwards wrote a book called Push Out, and it really goes into an interesting discussion about the punishment that Black girls receive in public education. You know, Jawanza Kunjufu wrote decades ago about the plan to destroy Black boys in schools. Schools are now functioning very much in a way to racially police our young people and to push them towards certain occupations and to render them with the incapability to critically think. And so middle class Black parents are all over the school. They in there. Their children are not going to be mistreated because they bring a different drive. They still bring that tradition. But I'm speaking really about our impoverished, struggling children whose parents may be working more than one job. They can't make that PTA meeting, back to school meeting, and their children really are left to fend for themselves.
Right.
And so I think we need to be honest about the way public education.
You said it twice. You said it twice, and it's good.
And so the alternative then is to really develop these freedom schools and other schools in the community. That is what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make it. It seems like the legislation is pushing it to say that we don't need to learn. People don't need to be educated. If you're educated, you're woke. If you're woke, you're liberal. If you're liberal, you're not of Christian values. And I mean, it just continues to be self-repetitive like this reverb. I mean, it just continues on and on. And how do you tell a child, I want you to learn, and there's other people saying, oh, you don't need to learn that. You know, I agree with you, Dr. Fairfax. They're pushing our children to be what they want them to be. And I think that we're going to end up back in the 50s if we don't look at, we may end up back in the 40s in a Nazi type authoritarian country. And that's not far down the road.
Yeah.
But the concern I have is the way in which our young people will not be prepared for those moments. And I'm completely concerned about them. I think the country is going to fight, be a war. We see it coming. And those 19th century leaders talked about this, that America's not going to share. America's not interested in Black people being a part of the good of America. Well, my greater concern is whether or not our young people will be culturally and spiritually, you all, prepared, psychologically prepared.
Yes.
Yeah. But you know what? I'd like to put this out to the group. What do you think of what this governor and also the governor of Minnesota have put executive orders out that took away the requirement of a BS or BA in some of the state jobs, and now no longer it's now no longer a requirement. They've dumbed down a lot of the jobs. Every job you don't need it. So now Bubba, who can read, can be, because I'm connected to,
right, of course.
Yes. And now I can get in and get a state job and don't have a clue. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's not for us. That's for their white folks. They're not thinking about us.
Yes.
Because we're not going to be the ones to get it. Because we're going to come in there qualified and ready for it and get it. I mean, ready to go ahead and do it. Because I know, and I'm prepped for this interview. I'm prepped for that. And I go in there, and then I see boyfriend that comes in with shorts on and flip flop. He's going to get the job.
Exactly.
And then I'm ready for this. I'm qualified for this. So we tried to go and we wanted to go in a different direction. Okay, so that's what it is.
Yes. But we see it happening before our eyes.
Right before our eyes. And they feel now that it's okay. What I got to lose? A man can steal millions, and he still thinks it's okay for him to run the country. But you got people that are in his camp falling by the wayside. But no, I'm going to do this. I can still do this because when I get in there, I'm going to change the Constitution so that I can be the one all time. Me and my orange hair can die in the president.
But y'all, we've already gone past the 1 hour point, so I'm gonna give a chance for everybody to have a finishing statement. So I'll start off with Johnny.
With me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I want to first say it has blessed my heart to see 3 doctors that are Black, look like me, and can discuss. I am so happy. I'm so proud. It makes my heart fine. I'm glad I got to meet all 3 of you. And I hope that we can meet again on the same level another day. Thomas and Slim, I think that we have a long way to come in this country in a very short time. And I think if we need to get out there, be active in the community, all politics are local. Work on it, because right now it looks dreary down the road. Go Cowboys!
Awesome. Dr. Fairfax.
So agree with Brother John. It's always an honor and a privilege to be with family, to talk about family. And it's always a privilege to be with my dear friend, Dr. Ernestine Duncan. I'm grateful to meet Dr. Shepherd.
Same here.
Just so wonderful to be here. Love, Brother Steve, and Mr. Colonel. Very quickly, I really think that our community is at a critical moment, and we need to continue to talk very honestly about the issues that are facing us today. And I think when we talk about education, it needs to be, again, in the community, within our ability to socialize and develop not only our young people, but anyone who wishes to have an education. And I think we need to really bring in our historically Black universities. Those institutions were created to educate the community, not just people who pay tuition. And so they have a role to play. And I really hope we can turn the page and begin to put some things in motion.
Dr. Shepherd.
I want to also echo Dr. Fairfax's comments. This is the second time I've been able to participate in the coffee talk, and it always ends up being a very stimulating conversation. And this is no different. And everybody's heart is in this, so there's a level of passion. But what we need to do, I hope this gets out to others and they can share. But as it relates to education, can it survive the politics? We hope so. We pray for it. We pray for that particular piece. But the ones that my heart is for the kids. I mean, that's what we're looking for, because they're our future. And I think that one of the things that we need to do, I think that the politicians, and I'm not one. I'm not a politician, because it's that quid pro quo and all that stuff. You rub my, scratch my hand, I'll scratch yours, and those like you drink my coffee, and I'll give you some Kool-Aid, whatever. But the thing about it is that the bottom line is for the children. And if they're not going to use the politics to help elevate the structures that we need to have in place, to include social, the emotional piece, dealing with the curriculum and all of those types of things, if it's not going to be done to help to support that and undergird that to work for our children, we got problems. And right now we do have problems. And let me put it this way to bring hope to it. We have challenges that we are articulating, and now we have people in place to help us to solve them. Hopefully we're going to have that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I guess what I'll say is I agree with Johnny, and I am awesome to see the three of y'all up here, doctors that represent a part of society that somebody doesn't want to see you up there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, and we have to keep these kind of discussions going on, because the truth and the word is our only power, together with our right to vote. And I, as a graduate of a public school system, and actually 2 HBCU universities, and I got 2 degrees from PWI, but they don't even come close to the education I got from my HBCU schools. I put that out. And when I was my last job in Cadet Command, I had 253 schools universities I was responsible for. And when I went out and talked to the dean and the kids that are in these schools, I would say my education in an HBCU school was second to none. And the graduates were second to none. And for those folks who are graduating high school or looking for a place to go, be your first choice is to go to an HBCU school. And that's how I will end my talk right there.
I'm going to take this opportunity to close. As always, it is an honor for me to be a part of the Portsmouth Coffee Talk, especially tonight with colleagues that I know and colleagues that I'm meeting. I am a product of the public schools of Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, okay.
And I'm also a product of a community of hardworking, um, religious, focused um, community, true community. As Dr. Shepherd mentioned, I could get in trouble at school and my parents would know it before I got home. And the teachers had permission and authority to discipline and to reprimand me.
That's right.
I think that the power of what's needed for us today in education is that we need to return to some of those basic ideals. We need to give respect to our teachers and our educators. But most importantly to me, I think that we need to continue to have these conversations. And not just these conversations, which I consider a meeting of the mind, but we need to talk to those individuals that we're concerned about
Yeah.
at our churches, in our communities, in the grocery store, wherever we might be. There are children that we see who have needs. And to some extent, we can meet those needs, even if we serve as a mentor,
Yes.
or if we purchase a book, or we get them a library card. Whatever it is that we can do, those are the things that I believe to whom much is given, much
Much
is
is
required.
required.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping if each of us could take this conversation to two people, and those who listen to this radio show will take that conversation to two people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a community of people who will be better as a result of the conversation.
Mm. Each one reach one.
Each
Yes.
one reach one.
Awesome.
Okay, I know I'm real low, but I'm one of those people that believe that things happen for a reason. So it probably was a reason that the conversation was between the five of you very intelligent people. And it gave me an opportunity to sit back and listen. And I'm always learning. So I want to say I appreciate the the conversations, what you shared here tonight. And sorry about the hiccups, the reverb, and everything else. But like it was said, we're gonna do this again and on a regular basis because I think these conversations are necessary, and also these conversations lead to solutions,
Yes.
which is what we're gonna need, and we're gonna need more people to engage in these kind of conversations as well. But solution engaged conversations, not
Right.
just talk, not just talk.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, and we appreciate you. Dr. Shepherd, you know I love you,
Love you too, boo.
homie.
Homie.
And my cousins, would you guys stay on after we sign off?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. Then.